Yeah, about myself, there's not much I could say. I'm 31 years old. I'm a Jerusalemite. I grew up in what you would call the political right in Israel. Yeah, so in Israel, right and left is not according to social economical policies. It's settlements, occupation, yes, no.
Yeah.
Did my high school in the settlement in the West Bank. My sister's a settler. My cousins were settlers in Gaza. So that's kind of like where I grew up. I'm also a practicing Orthodox Jew, which makes me a bit of a weirdo in the community that I live today in. Graduated high school, joined the military. In Israel, we have a draft, right? Men serve for 3 years, women for 2 years. If you're in good health condition, you'll be sent to be a combat soldier, and that's what I was. So I served from March 2001 to March 2004 as an infantry combat soldier and a commander. Finished my service as a company sergeant. A company is a group of around 120 soldiers. 2 years of my time in service were in the West Bank, and out of them, 14 months in Hebron. We're talking about more or less the peak of the violence of the Second Intifada, 2002-3, beginning of 4. Even though I come from the political right, throughout my service I had many doubts. Yeah, whether what we're doing is the right thing or not. And I think especially in Hebron, a lot of soldiers who go through Hebron find it as an eye-opening experience. Yeah, it's one of these places that forces you to start asking questions that otherwise you'll never ask. But the thing is that when you're a soldier, you always find a way to move on. There's not real place for questions and doubts. There's orders, there's missions. And I think the most important thing there is this bond of comradeship. That it doesn't matter how wrong you think what you're doing. If you're next in line to wake up 5 o'clock, replace your friend at 6 o'clock, that's what you're going to do because that's how the military operates. That's how things work. When you become a commander, it was even worse because you have more responsibility. You have more, and that's kind of like how I went through my entire service. It was only towards the end of my service I was a company sergeant. Last few months, just starting to plan my life afterwards. Who am I? What do I want to do when I'll grow up? That kind of questions that you started asking the last 4 or 5 months, and I think just being there at this time, where for the first time in my life as an adult, I was thinking about life as a civilian rather than seeing things from a perspective of a combat soldier, was a turning point for me. It's kind of like, it's the first second you stop seeing things from inside, you take one step out, and suddenly things look very, very different. It was a very terrifying moment at first because once I stopped thinking as a professional combat soldier, I lost justification for 90% of actions I took part in. Suddenly the way I've justified things to myself didn't make sense anymore. And it was that strong sense that something was wrong that brought me to where I am today. I had no idea what to do with it. I was far away from being able to articulate it the way I can do today, but I just felt I cannot continue my life without doing something about it. So I turned to the only people I can talk to, and that was my comrades. And very fast I discovered that we all felt the same. Somewhere in the back of our mind, we all felt that something was wrong. And it's from those conversations that Breaking the Sign started. We started talking about things we've done and seen, and every time I tell this story today, I feel how naive and stupid we were back then. But the one thing in that conversation that we kept on bumping into and being shocked from is the realization that people back home have no clue. Our own society that is sending us to do the job has no clue what doing the job means. So we decided to bring Hebron to Tel Aviv, and that was the kind of like the slogan. And let me say it clear, it's not that Hebron was the worst place we served in. I was in big operations in 2002, Ramallah, other parts of the West Bank. Hebron was a 5-star hotel relatively compared to what we've done there. But it was just a place that we were all together for over a year so we could actually tell a story about. So I got out of the military in March 2004, a bit over 10 years ago. June 1st, 2004, we opened a photo and video exhibit in Tel Aviv. 64 people from our unit, our photos on the wall, our faces on the screen, no plans what we're doing, It just felt like the right thing to do. If something goes wrong, you scream, and very quick we found ourselves in the middle of a huge mess. It was the first time that a group of veterans have organized itself this way. We became the story of the country for the week all over the news. More than 7,000 people came to visit the gallery the 3 weeks that it was on. We were invited to present the exhibit in the Israeli Knesset, in the Israeli Parliament, for a full month after. We didn't understand what's going on around us.
Who invited you?
Not even a leftist party. The Liberal Party, Shinui. Yair Lapid's father's party, Tomi Lapid. Yeah, Israeli politics 10 years ago was very, very different than today. That would probably never happen in this parliament. Yeah, but and it was the noise that the exhibit created, and the fact that we met other veterans who served in other areas who had the same story. And it's these two things that brought us to continue Breaking the Silence until today. Soon we're going to mark the 10th anniversary of Breaking the Silence in June. And basically what we do since then to today is mainly two things. The heart of our work is documenting testimonies, so we video, audio tape soldiers and ex-soldiers about their experience. Until today we've interviewed over 950 men and women. All of them served as conscripts from the beginning of the Second Intifada to today. Cross-check, verify these testimonies and publish them. And the second thing we do is we try to use our personal experience and the testimonies we gather as an educational and advocacy tool. So a lot of lectures, talks, panel discussions, tours to the West Bank, Hebron, the south of Hebron, around Ramallah. In a way of Breaking the Silence started with trying to bring Hebron to Tel Aviv. Now we're trying to bring Tel Aviv to Hebron. We're trying to bring many Israelis to see firsthand the reality on the ground. Just so you get a bit of the scope of our activity, in today's capacity, we interview about 100 veterans a year. About 30% of the people we speak to testified during their conscription time. So we're not just talking about stories from my time in the military. We're talking about things, people that are today in uniform. And we conduct around 400 to 450 tours and lectures. So we meet a big chunk of people, around 10,000 people a year. Around 35-40% are young Israelis before draft, so youth movements, high school kids, pre-military academies. That's a very important target group for us. The last thing I would say about Breaking the Silence before I jump into the book, if I try to put into few words what it is we want in Breaking the Silence, so for us the story is very simple. We're a bunch of veterans who believe that our military should be an instrument of defense and not an instrument of oppression and occupation. We're not pacifists here. This is not who we are. It's just that we believe in this weird concept that people should govern themselves and not be ruled by a foreign army. Yeah, we just think that military rule over another people is wrong. Strategically, morally, for the military, for society, for war, whichever angle you look at it, a prolonged occupation is not an option we're willing to accept on the table. Definitely not by our military. And in a way, for us, the story is to try to use our identity as veterans to increase resistance to the occupation. And that's how we would talk about it inside. And the way to do that we've chosen is to try to use our personal experience and the testimonies we gather as a tool to force a discussion about the moral price tag of maintaining a prolonged occupation. And try to, I would say, bring up the one question that I believe is the most important question in a democratic society, and that is, what are our moral boundaries? Yeah? What do we stand for? What are the red lines? To what extent we stand behind our military when we say no, not in our name. So that's basically where it starts, that's where it ends.